Okay, well, fighting Scots are nothing if not punctual, as we all know. So, hello everybody. I'm Mac Price. I'm the Assistant Director of the Monmouth Fund and Prospect Research at Monmouth College. So, I am the resident tech head for alumni. Welcome to our second Golden Scots event, the Educational Farm and Garden Tour, featuring Associate Professor of Biology and our resident green thumb, Dr. Eric Engstrom, who is being filmed by Associate Director of Alumni Engagement and camerawoman Jordan Sherpy-Lencioni. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we begin, a little bit of housekeeping items to make sure your experience is the best it can possibly be. Today's event will be recorded and available on the Monmouth College website, so don't do anything that I wouldn't do. And for the best viewing experience during tonight's presentation, and you are in speaker mode, which can be selected in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. There's three little boxes next to view, and that's what you'll need to click. You can ask questions using the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. And at the end of today's presentation, if you'd like to voice your question, you'll have the option to turn it on your screens for questions and conversation with Eric. At the end of today's event, you'll see a short 3-minute survey in your web browser and a survey next week once the Golden Scott celebration has concluded to make sure that we can make events like this the best they can possibly be. A little bit about our intrepid tour guide. Eric earned his BA in biology from Reed College and his PhD in biological science from Stanford University. His interest in agroecological farming developed from his dissertation work in biological nitrogen fixation, so that's pretty complicated. And he began teaching courses in sustainable farming early in his academic career. The educational garden and market farm were among the many things that drew Eric to Monmouth College back in 2015. So Dr. Engstrom, the grass is yours. Go for it.
Well, thanks. Hi, folks. Welcome to the Educational Garden. So this is basically it's a demonstration and experimentation garden. We work out here. We bring people in from the community, school groups, our own students, community members who want to do some gardening and see how they can garden themselves and on their own properties and grow some food, which is actually surprisingly important. About 15% of the food that's consumed in the United States today is grown much like this, in some sort of setting like this, in someone's backyard garden or garden farm. We also have some of our interns who are working out at the garden and the farm this summer. Do you want to introduce yourselves, or do you want me to introduce you?
Hi, I'm Jacob Duncan. I've worked one summer before this.
I'm Tala Tabshat. I'm a student volunteer. I go to McAllister, but I'm here home for the summer. Yeah, so I'm just here for fun, basically.
My name is Olivia Crowsdale. This is my first summer working here, so it's really exciting.
And they're all standing in the grape arbor. So we have some grapevines over here. This and the wall were constructed by garden and farm students very early on in the history of this. The first group of students who really set this up. There used to be two houses here. There was a women in science house and a sustainability house. And the houses are gone, and the students who lived in them once are gone. We now have a cherry orchard that we are starting up here. The cherry orchard is about 3 years old. No cherries yet. We're eagerly anticipating the year that's going to be our first crop. They're sour cherries, good for making pies and things, selling to restaurants. And hopefully cherry blossoms, as you know, are quite lovely in the spring. So this is a nice little front for our operations, the first thing people will see from the street. Okay. So we'll walk around a little bit. Here we have our herb garden. We've been selling some herbs at the Friday Farmers Market in town. I believe they have been selling. We have some mint here, thyme, some chives, tarragon, sage in the back. There's actually 2 kinds of mint. And we have horseradish.
And we've got cumin, oregano, chamomile, and rosemary coming. It's all ready to be planted. Some of it's been planted over there, but we've been working on this for a couple of weeks, tilling and relaying the bricks. It took us quite a while.
You're looking at all the herbs that actually survive an Illinois winter, above or underground. Everything else we are going to have to replant every year, and they've got this bed really in shape for replanting. It's going to go very well. Over here behind the herb garden, you can see the apple orchard. We have Lodi, close to where Tala is standing, Macintosh. We have some Granny Smith. Further down, we have Pink Pearl, Hudson's Golden Gem. We have a single specimen of that. We're hoping to someday get more. These are all early apples, so they're going to come on. If you were to get very close to them, you can see the apples are about that large right now. And end of August, last couple of weeks in August, we should be able to pick the apples and hopefully sell them at market. So all good apples for eating out of hand. We'll go across the way here. So we have some honeybees here. We have honeybees both at the garden and at the farm. This particular location has proven to be a great place to stick honeybee hives. We think it is the ambient heat in the wintertime coming out of that greenhouse, rather consistent, and the bees do quite well. We've managed at one stretch to keep a honeybee hives going here for I think 6 years consecutively. They did not last through the last winter. We had a very bad, long, hard freeze, but we've got some bees going here. And this is the greenhouse, and this lets us get started in April. Even in March, occasionally, we can plant seeds in there. We do a lot of seed blocking. Jacob, would you like to run in and just pull out a tray of seed blocked squash? Squash would be good. Oh, those are on top of potatoes. Yep.
These have been in here for only a couple weeks now. I think we planted these right when we started working. Many are just starting out.
Do you mind if I get up close to the hive?
Not a bit.
Okay.
And the bees have been pretty
They're tame.
docile. Yeah.
Good.
I'll go in close here. So this is our active hive here.
Yeah.
These are just,
Okay.
these boxes didn't make it, but you can see down here at the bottom, we've got bees going in and bees going out. And that one was doing a little turn. That's part of their communication. Craig Vivian could explain this were he here much, much better than I can. But we really enjoy the bees, and our honey is definitely one of our big money makers. We sell honey for $1 an ounce. It's worth every penny of that. It's some of the best honey I've had.
While we're walking, I'd like to mention we did have an event this fall with Craig Vivian with the beehive. So if anybody wants to check out more information about those hives, you can find that on the Monmouth College alumni website as well. You'll see the link for that video. So
He gives a fantastic
Yes.
talk. It's part lecture, part stand-up comedy. It's really wonderful. We have our tool sheds and equipment sheds, freezer and refrigerator in here. We do occasionally bag up a lot of strawberries, blueberries, things that we just have more than we can sell. We can freeze them and eat ourselves on them through the winter. It's quite a nice perk of working here. Let's see. Compost. Next. So we don't fertilize out here with any chemicals. We rely upon the compost that we manufacture ourselves. That's over to the, that would be the left. is the active bin. So that's what we're putting stuff in right now. Grass clippings. Our cafeteria, all through the academic semester, supplies us with vegetable scraps from serving the students. We bring them over here every Saturday. We dump them in there. And it's astonishing how quickly that pile gets smaller and smaller and smaller in volume. The next bin over, that compost is sort of in another stage of maturity. It's sort of curing. It's rather dark. You don't see any intact material in there, not much anyway. And we're just turning it very frequently to keep it oxygenated. And when it's finally finished, we'll move it into the third bed. This was constructed by Professor Tim Tibbetts before I got here. It's in need of a little reconstruction. It's getting on in years, but it works very, very well for us. We generate a lot of compost. And when we spread it around on our beds here, we really can see the results very dramatically. Here are our first of our beds. So this bed at the moment has not had anything done to it other than it was pre-tilled. It was tilled once. It's becoming a maple forest at the moment. We're not going to let that happen. This is going to be a bed of tomatoes, tomatillos, peppers, cilantro, basil.
Our salsa bed.
Our salsa bed, although take the basil out of that. We're not going to put the basil in our salsa. We like to plant mixtures of things whenever we can. That's one of our guiding principles. And what we're going to experiment with here this year is not having neat rows of everything, but sort of planting things around in a somewhat random fashion and see if that increases our productivity a little bit. It may not. We haven't tried it before. It's not something we've done in the past. We're always trying something new out here and comparing it to see if we can raise the level of our game a bit. So we're kind of excited about this. You saw the tomatillos in the seed blocking. Whenever we can, we like to seed block rather than direct seed. On this scale, it works extremely well, and everything that goes in the ground, is going to be a successful plant. Sometimes when you put the seeds out there, they come up well, sometimes they don't. If they don't come up well in there, well, we're not going to waste time with them out here. It's rather nice. We have some raspberries here, but we're thinking of, we have a lot of raspberries at the farm. We're not sure we need any more. Here's a bee doing some pollination for us. That's a wild bee. Not sure the species. So we may turn this into, we'll decide on Friday. I'll bring the Norse catalog and we'll see if we want to put currants in here. We could put rhubarb in here. It's going to be fun picking out. We like making plans. Here we have our irrigation source. Professor Brad Sturgeon, whom some of you may have recently encountered, is responsible for this. This is his masterpiece. So the water is stored in these 4 tanks, and it's the highest thing in the garden. So it will always flow downhill. We can attach a drip irrigation system to this, turn it on, and send it out to any of these fields. The water comes off the roof of that dorm. There's a large tank at the base of it that's collecting the water off the roof when it rains. So this is all rainwater. And I don't know if you can see quite in the distance there, a solar panel that powers the pump that sends the water up through a hose from the large tank to fill these 4 tanks. So it's a completely solar powered watering system. And once we turn these taps on, it's just gravity driven. So it's really rather elegant. And this is a somewhat larger scale of something that you can do and people do in their own backyards, collecting the water off their roofs, getting into a thing, having something a little elevated, and you can water your garden through drip irrigation. Once you've made the initial investment, it's going to last for years and years and years. So this is the sort of thing we like to model. And when we bring people onto the educational garden, we always want to talk about this and say, hey, you can do this too. Many people in Monmouth have compost systems very similar to this. Sid Smith, when a local dentist showed me mine, he was extremely proud of his compost. Here we have another bed. Garlic is one of our just most successful. Every year it just works very well here. and we plant the garlic every year from garlic that we collected the previous season. So this is our garlic bed. We'll be harvesting this probably mid-July. By then, all the plants will start browning out kind of nicely. It's very easy and fast to harvest. We're gonna have a list of people who want some. We'll sell it at the farmer's market. It's long neck garlic. It will store. We love this stuff. We love growing it. It always works very well. And then we have a bed here that was planted yesterday. I think, yeah, Liz?
Yep, yesterday finished it.
Put in another row of squash. We have squash and beans, and we need to plant some more beans. We're not quite done here. Acorn squash and Areca or yellow beans. These are not beans for eating fresh. We'll be picking them dry, shelling them, and they're going to make very good baked beans over the winter. The squash will also store beautifully. Okay, so we're in the salsa bed, it's all about eating now, fresh eating, selling at the market. We may sell this at the market too, but you can buy, we'll be selling the acorn squash by large, tubs, and people can stock up for the winter. These two beds here are being used as community garden beds this summer. It's something we've never done before, but we have some of our neighbors, actually they're all faculty and affiliate of the college, have planted in here. So we've let them take these over. They're responsible for them. They can use the tools, and people who don't have a lot of garden space in their own backyards, or who just don't have enough because they're really real fanatics, can come out here and do a little gardening as well. Let's see. There's a bed down the hill. This has been tilled once. Jacob took the tractor over it, I think Monday, maybe? Yeah. And that was just one time to loosen it up a bit and kill some. We had a cover crop on there of rye and clover. We're going to till it again probably tomorrow. And this time we're going to do a more comprehensive job. And I have been informed that our sweet potato slips are in the mail. We're going to fill this thing up with sweet potatoes. It's a crop we haven't grown recently, but we have grown it successfully in the past 5 years. And sometimes we've gotten real bumper crops from it. So we'd like to see about that. In the past, we've gotten so many sweet potatoes, we've donated quite a lot of them to the Jameson Center. That's our community food bank. And they've been extremely grateful to get them because they last, if they cure properly, they will last for many, many months. So a good source of nutrition. And sweet potatoes are high in beta carotene, much healthier for you than a regular potato. So a good source of nutrition. We have some raised beds down here. They are out of commission this summer while we're repairing them slowly. They were finally starting to fall apart. And then one bed down at the base, which is in cover crop right now, that clover and crimson rye mixture that we like. All these beds were covered this winter, so you didn't see the bare soil over the winter. Well, there was snow on the ground, but we try and make sure we always have the soil covered whenever we can and not leave it bare and exposed. And do any of you have anything to add here?
About the beds?
About the beds, what you've done?
We do have a couple of questions in the chat, if you'd like to take those now.
Yeah.
We've got time now, yeah.
Great. So first, John Dahl asks how the garden and farm are actually used in the college's curriculum.
Oh, excellent question. The farm is more heavily utilized in the curriculum because the farm is where we really demonstrate agroecological farming practice. So when we have students, we have Monmouth alums who are currently farming. Dusty Spurgeon is an example, who is farming out in Rio, not too far. And we teach courses in food security, we teach courses in ecology, and we can use the farm in particular for all of that. Not just because it's a larger scale, but there's more diversity out there. We have a woods around the copse, and the way we're growing out there is more how you would grow if you wanted to be a small scale, say 10, 15 acre farmer. You can actually make a very good living off 5 acres if you grow the right things and you have the right market nearby. 10 to 15 acres is probably more common. If you have some livestock, you might up that to 20, 25 even. But this sort of mid-level farming we're really demonstrating out there. And we can also bring in all the ecological principles we talk about in the classroom. I mentioned that we try and plant a diversity of things in one bed. That's something we teach in Biology 155, that your productivity goes up when you have multiple species in an area relative to one, that sort of thing.
Mac, is there another question?
There are now 2 more questions.
Okay.
First is from Vicky Young, which is, can you explain what seed blocking actually is?
Well, I may pass that off to our seed blockers. They've done it firsthand here.
So what we do is we mix soil. So we mix some of our compost with peat moss, sand, and perlite, which makes for a good soil. And then we get it kind of wet, kind of moist, so that it'll clump together. And then we have these tools. They're kind of metal contraptions that will make blocks of the soil and like compact the soil together, and it'll punch a little hole in the top, and then you put the seed in there and you cover it with soil, and then you just put it in the greenhouse and water it every couple of days. We hope it grows.
And then we can take these preformed blocks, once we have the plant, they separate from one another very nicely. You dig a small hole, you pop the block right in, and you've planted your plant. And that process takes about 4.7 seconds, I think we've measured it at. So yeah, very quick. Yeah, and all these were seed blocked initially.
It helped us with our squash since there was a lot of rain early on. We were able to get it to be kind of successful before we put it in.
It's very useful on this type of scale. At larger scales, it becomes impractical. But if you were doing, say, lettuce production, where you wanted to plant lettuce every week so that you'd always have something to sell, it's just fantastic.
Perfect. Let's do one more question, Mac, and then we'll head over to the farm.
Okay, the questions are rolling in, which is great. We're so happy to see that participation. One more from Judy Hogfelt is, where exactly are we right now? Where is this located in relation to the campus?
That's a great question. Broadway is off there in front of the cherry orchard. And then this Founders Village?
Yes.
Founders Village, where we have some fraternities normally housed, I believe now.
It's fraternities, and then there's the Madden House, which is gender neutral housing, and that's all the houses that's over there.
So student housing here, and then all around us are homes of our neighbors in Monmouth here.
Great question. All right, let's head on over to the
All right,
farm.
to the farm.
So now we're headed over to the farm, which is located just a few blocks off of campus. So you might be able to follow us through the video as well.
Everyone buckled.
Please feel free to buckle up along at home. Safety is paramount here.
Yes. Mac, is there another question that we could answer while we're driving over there?
There sure is. Alice Dunlap Craft asks if there are similar programs at other small Midwestern liberal arts colleges, or if Monmouth's program is unique.
The answer is yes to both. Many ACM schools have little gardens. Knox has a very impressive high tunnel, and then they've planted an orchard of apples outside of that. We collaborate with them a little bit from time to time. They usually come over here once a summer, and we go over there once a summer to compare notes. About 3 years ago, I went to a ACM sustainability conference at Beloit College, and all of the colleges were presenting their sustainability initiatives. Most of them were showing pictures of their gardens and farms and growing tomatoes, and some of these tomatoes would get into their cafeterias. And then Craig Watson started all of this. He's now retired from our English department, but he was the driving force in founding all of this. Craig Watson got up and said, "Oh yeah, we have a farm too here at Monmouth," and started showing pictures of our students on the tractor baling alfalfa out at the farm, and everybody's eyes just really popped. So I don't believe anyone in the AACM has anything quite to compare with the combination we have of the market, farm, and educational garden.
I can add, I go to McAllister College in St. Paul, and which is a very urban area, obviously. And so we don't really have the opportunity to do something this huge with so much land and like livestock and things like that. So this opportunity is really special for me. As I'm home during the summer, I get to participate in this really cool project. So that's something Monmouth has that's really special. That's great. Thank you.
Jacob's going to open up for us. We do have a slight barrier.
We do have another question from Vicki Young, is how much are the annual expenses to run the farm and the garden? And do we have any grants to assist with that?
That is a marvelous question, and I have an incomplete answer to it. We are budgeted from the college, so we receive a budget every year that pays for many of our seed purchases, pays stipends for the summer interns, pays a stipend to the faculty member who is here over the summer helping out, and occasionally allows us to make some more substantial purchases. Much of what you're about to see here, for instance, this entire farm was a gift from, I believe, a retired judge living in the community who willed this to the college after seeing the garden and was very impressed. The lodge in front of here where I've just parked, that is a gift. The tractor that we have was a gift. The fence that we just drove through was gifted to us. So that has gone a tremendous way. There really would be no farm here without all that community support. But I am trying to get a handle this summer on what exactly does it cost us. So we're going to do some accounting at the end. I've got all of our receipts and say, how much do we spend on this, that, the other thing, fuel for the tractor, how much for seeds? Because we're very, very interested in these questions. If we're telling students this is how you could run a small sustainable farm, it's going to be very useful for them to know, well, what exactly is it going to cost me to do that? And at the moment, we can't give them a perfect answer to that question.
That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and tour the farm now, and then keep those questions rolling, and we'll have some more time for question and answers at the end of today's programming.
All right. So as this is a gift, we call this the Kubota Lodge. Our tractor lives here. And our chickens at the moment. And we can start with Liv telling you a little bit about the chicks. And then we'll go over and look at the larger birds.
Perfect.
So we have about 14 chickens right now. We have 7 chicks that we just got a little bit ago. They're a couple of weeks old. They're growing very fast. So this is where they're staying right now with the heat lamps to keep them warm and healthy. And we're just waiting for them to get up to about 6 to 10 weeks old so that they're fully feathered and can keep themselves warm. Then we'll put them outside and join them with the other chickens over in the coop.
That box right there is the one that came in the mail.
Yes. We have named one of the chicks, the smallest one. His name is Frederick, or her name is Frederick.
Yeah, they're technically all hens, but
We bought them all as hens, but it's not like guaranteed that they're all hens. So we might have a rooster in there, maybe not, but we'll see when they get older.
This is our tractor. This is the big beast we use for tilling the larger beds. When we till them, we are trying to slowly move away from a lot of tilling, but that's a process, and we're learning how to till less. But we do till, and this is the tractor that we run. Two of these interns have become proficient on driving and tilling. This is our real great baby here. This is Fabio, is its name. Watson, I think, is responsible for that. It's an Italian-made walking tractor, and it's beautifully sized for this sort of operation. Right now, it's got a flail cutter attachment on it, which we've been using to cut paths through the grass. But we can also put a rotary tiller on it. We can put a medium-sized tiller on it. And we're very excited because we're in the process of purchasing a roller crimper, which is something that's going to flatten our cover crops for us to create a mulched bed that we can plant directly into without any tilling. We've never done this before, but this is cutting edge sustainable practice, and we're going to bring it here to the Monmouth farm.
Perfect.
So as I mentioned in answering one of those questions, the goal out here is rather different. What we're trying to do here is almost as much teach ourselves as teach our students, because I'm learning a lot here too. Agroecological farming is a very much craft. It's a very site-specific thing, and it's something everyone has to master. But the crux of it is we're always saying, how is what we're doing out here not only not degrading our soil, but is actually enriching our soil? Can we keep building our soil health? So one of the things we're trying this summer, you may notice the grass is rather high in many places. That's deliberate. It would probably be pretty high anyway because we've had so much rain. But we've actually made a choice to let it grow much further than we normally have. In most years in the past, we've kept it mowed, but we're hoping that this is putting more organic matter into the soil. It's sending the roots down deeper. As they go to seed, that's food for the birds. This is a place where we try to make this a very wildlife friendly environment as well. And, basically we're trying to build the soil, even that we're not, currently growing crops on. Okay. Should we go to the chickens next?
Yeah.
Yes. Take the path. More bees as we pass them by. Oh yeah, go ahead, Jacob, put it down. These hives didn't make it, so they just haven't been put away yet. We are going to have, I think, some of our art students who are here for the summer have asked if they can come out and paint on the boxes, on some of the boxes. So that's kind of fun. And the professor in the art department, Janice Wunderlich, has got her eye on painting something on the coop itself. So where we are now is the chicken run. The woods you see here, we call this the copse, and it's actually very important for us. It's, among other things, it's good habitat for native bees. And later on, when we see the blueberries, native bees do the bulk of the pollination out there. The honeybees help a little, but the native bees are doing most of that. And that's backed up by some very recent interesting research that shows you that two species of native bees in particular are very good at pollinating the blueberries.
Got a chicken.
Here comes a chicken. It's one of our Rhode Island Reds. And she's kind of curious. We should have brought something to tempt them out. But want to say, you want to be immortal? Want to be famous? Is this going on the wet? Oh, well. So this is their little run. And then on the other side of that, you'll see some strange cages. Those are protecting pecan trees from the deer until they get large enough to fend for themselves. And there is a more mature pecan off to the back. So we are in the process of turning this into a pecan orchard. And so as we're going to increase the number of chickens that we have, we will probably soon build another coop. We hope to get enough so that we have a fairly consistent stream of egg production so that we can actually start selling and giving those eggs to the college community on a more regular basis. They lay even through the winter, although they slow down quite a bit. And so we'll have a pecan orchard here. The pecan trees are going to be wonderful for the chickens. They provide them with shade and a nice environment to hang out in. Everything comes at a cost. They also provide a nice place for a hawk to perch while it's deciding which chicken it's going to pick off. But that's one of the interesting things. There's no perfect way of doing things out here, you know. And the hawks can be in the copse anyway, I figure. So this is not. And there's a little back porch out there for them. So at the moment we have.
So we have 6 hens and 1 rooster that we just got. His name is Lucky. And they are all just chillaxing in there for the summer. One of our biggest goals this summer for the chickens is to get them off of store-bought feed. So right now we're really looking to get some scrapped food, like some good leafy greens and fruits and veggies, which are really good for the chickens. So that is the biggest chicken goal this summer.
We grow corn, buckwheat. We are going to grow we're growing sunflowers at the moment, and we're going to be planting some oats. All these things can become chicken feed, and we're experimenting with getting a good nutritional balance, particularly over the winter when food scraps are going to be less available. To keep the chickens well nourished. Our output on that is, are they laying well? If they continue to lay eggs, that's telling us that they're getting all the nutrition that they need. So let's see, our high tunnel. This was a grant. Someone asked if there were grants and things. A grant also purchased our truck. That was written, and I am going on sabbatical in the fall, and among the many activities I'll be trying to do is writing some more grants to support and expand upon this farm. That is the fruits of one grant, and that lets us do season extension. We can grow, if we plant it at the right time, and we didn't quite nail it this last fall, but if we plant it a little earlier than we did, we can get arugula and spinach all through the winter in there. And it is a really wonderful thing to have in December, especially when you're putting a nice dinner out for your Christmas guests, to go and get a bunch of really fresh, lovely arugula. So that's working quite well. It gets a little hot in there. We have kept tomatoes going all through the summer in there. Tomatoes will tolerate it. And we're toying with getting another composting operation going in there through the summer. Okay. It's on rails, so in principle, it can move. We haven't ever moved it. Once we found ways to keep the fertility pretty high in there, so we haven't had to do that. That's a Geodesic Dome. It's a project of Professor Vivian. He wants to turn that into a teaching space. Already this spring, Craig has brought out almost 200, I would think, a head count of children from local schools to this farm to see what we do here, to see what a farm looks like, to meet the chickens and see chickens doing their natural behaviors.
Oh, we've actually got one.
Yeah. The Rhode Island Red. Yeah.
We'll check back on the rooster.
So one of the fun things about this is imagining it in 10 and 20 years, even when, you know, we just have a whole lot of pecans here, nicely spaced, and a lot more chickens. That's what we're building towards. We've had chickens now, these particular chickens, I think about 2 years, I think. Over here we have another one of, Craig Watson was responsible for all the initial planting. He did a very sagacious, I think, in that he planted mostly perennials that don't require quite as much work as veggie beds. So we have raspberries and blackberries in here. They have to be thinned, trimmed, pruned, and mulched. We do that mostly in March and April. And then we pretty much let them go. and come and get the raspberries when they're ready for us. We've sold them to local restaurants. We've sold them at farmers markets. Mostly we rely upon U-picks. We have people come out here and pick the berries themselves, and then we take their money, and it works out well for everyone. The quality of the berries is very good, and some of these berries have actually given us a crop, believe it or not, in October. I once sold the back of my pilot full of raspberries to a restaurant that's no longer with us on season, and they were thrilled to get raspberries in October. It was really quite something. So now we'll walk a bit around this way, I think. Where do we have a path here, Jacob?
I think it's underneath the tree.
Oh, I see a bit of it here.
Mac, while we're walking, is there a question?
There are actually several questions. One of them is from Vicky Young. She's interested in what you'll be bringing to market tomorrow evening on the square.
Oh,
What we're bringing to the market?
yes.
Strawberries and asparagus, I believe. Asparagus is very, very yummy. Goes fast, so come early.
And also some of our herbs. We always have bundles of mint.
We have
A few tarragon as well. some
Thyme.
thyme.
Maybe our chives. Not sure yet. Is there anything else?
I don't know.
That's it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Did they ask where the farmer's market is?
Well,
I don't know.
go ahead.
It's
and
on the square at 5:30 p.m. to
Eight.
8.
Perfect.
So these are our strawberry beds, and we have a good crop this year of some very nice strawberries. You don't have to reach too far to find a good one. I think I'm going to eat this thing. Yeah. Oh, it's pretty good. That's a good one. So beautiful in here. We spent quite a bit of time in these beds today. You can see towards the back maple trees, little maple trees about that big. A lot of maples around the hedgerow here, and they're wonderful for us. They're wind blocks. They really help us get the right microclimate in here, but like everything else, they have their downside. They send a lot of maple seeds into our beds. So we've been clearing them out here. We anticipate these strawberries are going to keep going for, I should say another 2-3 weeks maybe. At that point, we're going to try some more experiments. We're going to sow buckwheat in here. Nice thing about buckwheat is you can plant it late and you can still get a good crop before frost. We're going to experiment with not tilling this, just throwing some buckwheat seed down and seeing what it does. If it comes up very well, we'll then plant the entire bed that way. Another nice thing about buckwheat, we planted it out here once before. The bees absolutely go bonkers for it. So it's great for both the native bees and our honeybees. And it suppresses the weeds. I believe it produces allelopathic compounds in the soil. And there was just this nice even layer of buckwheat, very little else. I can't stop eating the strawberries. They're so good. That's good marketing
for you guys.
We'll walk this way. So this is the last season that this field will be in strawberries. We have noticed that after 4 or 5 years, the quality, both in terms of production and the flavor of the berries, it does tend to tail off quite a lot. So we're going to be replanting strawberries. Probably. Oh, thank you. So Tala just grabbed a pigweed. Every time we see one of these things,
Rule is
we
you gotta
pull it
pick
up.
with the root.
Yeah, we buy the root so it doesn't resprout. We're just trying very hard to. Pigweed produces, maybe 1,000 seeds on a large plant. This one has several hundred, and it's a wonderful weed. But well, we will respect it other ways than at our farm. Here's our asparagus beds, and yeah, we really need to get out there. So we'll be selling this also at the farmer's market. In the last couple of years, we've had some issues arise that we hadn't had before. We have a deer now. We have a resident buck who kind of has made this his farm, and he will come along and snip the top off your asparagus. And then he doesn't chomp down. He just says, oh, I think I'll find another one, and snip the top off that. So we have lost some of our crop to the buck.
Stand next to that one.
For height.
Yeah. Well, there's them get even taller. Just so you guys can see some of the height on this asparagus.
5'8".
It's taller than her knee.
And it's got little babies growing on it.
Yep. We'll definitely have a lot for tomorrow, so that's exciting.
That has to be picked tomorrow. That actually should have been picked a few days prior, but there we go. But it's going to be good. We'll eat that. Before I leave, I may pick some of this and take it home.
Yeah.
There'll still be plenty for market. And we have some more beds out here. This one is our cornfield this year. This is going to be our 4th corn crop. This is open pollinated corn that we save seed from, in addition to cooking with it. And we feed a lot of it to our chickens. I've made tortillas from it. They're pretty good, although I'm not a very good tortilla maker yet. I just got myself a new press, so we'll see if that raises my game. And some of you may be aware we made some beer with some corn that we've grown out here. I don't see any corn coming up yet, but we haven't failed to produce a crop. So this is going to be our corn bed. Once the corn is about that high, we're also going to plant squash and cowpeas in there, or perhaps we may just plant cowpeas in there. This was suggested to us by a colleague and friend of mine, Joel Groover at Western Illinois, who runs the Allison farm. He grows a lot of corn and beans, but using organic methods. And he's had great success intercropping corn and cowpeas. And I love to eat cowpeas, so I was sold. So we have some cowpea seed also that we've saved from previous plantings, and that's going to go right back in here. Seed is very expensive, and we're trying gradually more and more and more to be saving and replanting seed from our own crops. I'm a geneticist by training, and I've been very concerned for a long time about how we're losing a lot of the genetic diversity of a lot of the foods that we eat. And this is one, response to that. If we continuously plant the same corn out here for 20 or 30 years, it's no longer going to be what we bought. It's going to be corn that has sort of adapted itself to this site. It will have changed.
Mac, do you want to read us off another question?
I will anyway. Jordan, just
Okay.
you. Marsha Adair asks, how many acres are we working with here at Monmouth?
Here at the farm, we're slightly under 7 acres. I don't remember the exact 6 point, I think 6.4 maybe, but please don't write that down. Yeah. Here we have a strip between 2 beds, and we've planted this in native grasses and wildflowers. Again, the idea is we're trying to make more habitat for the bees, in particular the native bees that do us so many favors. As you can see, the maple trees also decided, what a fantastic bed, and we'll have to take care of that at some point. But if the grasses do a good job coming up for us, after a couple of years, we'll light this whole thing on fire, and that's going to take care of the maples pretty quickly. Here we have some squash coming up, and one of our experiments here. So we planted these, and my shadow there, sorry about that. This is a variety we've never worked with before, but it germinated pretty well. The Waltham butternuts in the other rows did not do so well. We have not weeded them because we've been waiting for the squash to come up, but we're finally starting to lose our patience, and we're going to replant from seed block squash. But we make notes on these sorts of things. We say, okay, this variety did very well with direct seeding, and it germinated at a high frequency. We'll be saving seeds from these and to replant in future years. And if it's a successful seller as well, then we've got another squash to keep propagating here.
Great.
So we were trying out these things. We know the Waltham butternuts everyone loves. And then there's some delicatas in here. And can see one there. Wherever you see an absence of weeds, that's where we identified a squash. We also experimented with direct seeding some nasturtiums in here. You can eat the leaves of nasturtiums, and we might be able to sell them to some restaurants, but mostly it's because nasturtiums are known to deter squash beetles from summer squash. We thought it could probably work for winter squash as well. So we said, how easy is it to get nasturtiums up from seed? Turns out not very well. If we didn't want to do that in the future, we'll be seed blocking that too. We have an apple orchard out here, just like at the garden. This one's somewhat larger, and these are more late varieties. So some of these would be picked in October. There's more of a mix of apples out here. Peaches as well, and there were some peach trees at the garden. And at the garden, we've gotten very good peaches in the past. We now have this deer. Didn't used to be a problem, but some of the younger apple trees out there are caged now to protect them from the deer, which was doing quite a pruning number on them before we set that up. Here is one of our apple trees, and you can see. So we got out here, and I think last week we finished thinning all the fruit. So every one of these apple trees at the farm and the garden, usually the fruit arises in clusters of 5. There's 5 flowers, and you have to just go in there by hand and snip off all but one. It's takes a little while, but it's really very pleasant work. I really enjoy it. I look forward to it, actually. Large scale orchards do this chemically, actually. They have things that they spray which make a certain proportion of the fruit fall off, but we don't do that. We just do it by hand. And at this scale, you can do that quite nicely. Okay, we're gonna walk.
Mac, do you want to read another question off to us?
Anything for you, Jordan.
Thank you.
From Alice Dunlap Craft, do the students use the farm for any formal research as part of their studies?
Not too frequently, but the opportunity is certainly there. We have the most recent example of that were some students who were doing some chemistry research, actually. And so they were growing some plants. Oh gosh, what were the plants that they were growing? Do you remember, Jacob? It was about 2 years ago. They had a little bed down there. Yeah. No. Oh, I think they were growing lavender. They were doing some analysis of lavender. So they had a lavender bed here so they could grow their own things for their research. We have had students talk a little bit about, could I do a sort of a farming project out here, research. The issue there is that most of this is happening in the summer, and most of the students are not here in the summer except for these interns. And I'm trying to dream up ways to expand upon what we're doing here so that more students can be here in the summer and can do exactly what you're proposing, which is actually run some experiments. There's a literature in agroecological practice, peer-reviewed, published regularly, and they could certainly be contributing to that over several summers. This is our blueberry fields. These go way back. This is Craig Watson's really crowning achievement. We are going to have a fantastic crop this year. They are just coming on beautifully. I think 2 to 3 weeks. And they have been speeding up. Every summer, they seem to be just a little bit earlier. We've got, I think, 6 different varieties, well, 4 anyway, 4 different varieties of blueberries out here. They all taste more or less the same, but they do come on at different times, which is nice because it sort of staggers our harvest just a little bit. We'll walk down and take a look. So they need a little maintenance for us. We've been busy with other things, but we're starting to get the rows into shape. This was taken care of today. Liv, do you want to say anything about the blueberries? Liv is in charge of them this year.
Sure. So the blueberries is a pretty big project. So we went through and we weeded some of them, but the weeds grow super fast because we've been getting a lot of rain. So I mowed this today and then started raking and mowing some other ones. But so the majority of what we do with the blueberries is we have U-picks, we sell them at the farmer's market, and we are looking to sell them to like cornucopia and some restaurants, hopefully. So that's good. We produce a lot of blueberries, and I assume they're very tasty. So they've grown a lot too. They used to, about a week or two ago, they were pretty small. They've gotten really big.
And you can mix blueberries with I don't know, 2 cups of blueberries with a 1/4 cup of sugar, put it in a bag, pop it in your freezer, and they'll be there for you in February. And very nice.
We are also, well, I am looking into making blueberry jam for the farmer's market once they become ripe enough. So that'll be fun. Make sure you come get some.
Okay. So we'll go down. We have one more bed. We'll quickly show you.
All right, Mac, while we walk down, do you want to read off one more question for us?
This is the last question in our queue right now. It's from Bill Pyatt. It's, how are the local county farmers responding to your efforts on the farm? Are they supportive, indifferent? What's that?
How are local farmers responding to the student farm?
It's a competition at the farmer's market.
For sure.
Sometimes other people bring their strawberries and there's a little friendly competition, but otherwise they're really nice. At least when we've been to the farmer's market, super supportive and helpful. So
yeah, we all buy from each other, so
yeah,
it's nice.
And then I have some friends who are commodity farmers who grow corn and soy. And they tend to smile a little bit at our efforts here and think it's rather charming, but not farming in the way that they do. And so we have conversations. I have conversations with them. They're still my friends. And I make the counter argument that actually this is quite important. That this is, as I mentioned, a source of a lot of calories for a lot of people, but it's also, growing your own food, having your own ability to feed yourself, at least in part. That's really food security right there, isn't it? I mean, that's what you can count on, and getting some nutrition that you made, with your own hands. And it's often said farming like this can't feed the world. I would take issue with that argument as an argument. I think this can be a very significant contributor to feeding a lot of people in a very healthful way. This is the last field I want to show you. It's not in production of any crop this year. It's in cover crop. This is something that's very important to us, that we're trying to learn to do more and more and better and better. There are 4 species out here: sun hemp, sunflower, sesame, and chia. These are all somewhat tropical plants. They're going to grow all right here in the summer, but a frost is going to kill them outright. And that's actually to our benefit. So the sun hemp actually if it grows very well, we'll probably need to cut it down come July. We haven't grown any of these before. Again, it's a mixture. There's that, multiple plants that all bring something and don't compete too vigorously with one another. Increases the productivity out here. So instead of having just a weed patch, which is absolutely counterproductive, because then we just find we have more weeds to weed out the next time this is a cornfield, we have plants that are covering the soil, that are fixing nitrogen, that are improving the tilth, that quality of the soil that we want so much. And so this is the first time we've done this particular mix, and we're just taking notes and hoping it does real well. And that is the farm in its entirety, I think. Anything any of you 3 would like to add?
I think we pretty much covered everything.
Great.
All right. Any last questions?
No further questions at this time. We are coming up on 7 o'clock though, so I think this has been great.
All right. Well, I really thank everyone for coming and for their interest in what we're doing out here, and for supporting our students with your attention. Thank you.
All right, so Oh, Vicky Young says that this has been very interesting. Thank you so much. And the program just grows and grows, literally and figuratively, I think, which is great. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and open up for any final questions that anybody has via letting people speak for themselves. So just 1 second here, and I'll turn on video capabilities for attendees.
Okay. Do we want to head into the shade?
Oh, we could.
Okay.
We're used to it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Give them a little bit of a visual while we're walking.
Jacob took down these paths for us, so we don't have to be. It was starting to feel almost like wading through snow, trying to get through this grass.
I remowed it today.
Yeah, hey, it looks good.
I found lots of detergent here that were safe for today, like these. I
Mm-hmm.
had a snake the other day and a family of bunnies that were protecting over my foot.
So folks, feel free to turn on your cameras, turn on your audio. If you've got any questions or you guys just want to chat with one another or the farm crew, please feel free. I think Mac has got almost everybody in.
You can follow us on Instagram if you're active on Instagram. It's called Monmouth.educational.garden. That's what it is. I wasn't sure if there was a college in there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Monmouth.educational.garden.
We're also on Facebook at Monmouth College Educational Garden.
Perfect. And then you can catch them out at the farmers market here in Monmouth as well. How often is the market run for the farmers market?
Every Friday evening, and I don't know how long it'll go. It's sort of to October. Okay, there we go.
I think it's the end of October.
Perfect.
We'll have things to sell all through that.
Perfect. And I see that Mac just put in the chat that link. So if you'd like to follow them on Facebook or Instagram, you're able to do that as well.
Until October 15th.
Okay, so the last day of the farmers market here in Monmouth is October 15th. And you said from 5 to 8 p.m. Is that correct?
5:30.
5:30 to 8 p.m.
I think people will be there, but we won't see it.
Okay. Perfect.
And this is our.
I'd like to thank everybody. It's been a wonderful program. And I've been following you since day one with Craig. And I'm a production agriculturalist. And I'm so thrilled that you are now trying to figure out what the heck your costs are. That's always been my one concern, is that you really need to know what things cost, so that I think it isn't practical unless you really have some good idea. But great job. Thank you very much.
We concur, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Does anybody else have any questions for Eric or the students about the farm or the garden?
Well, I have a question, if I can be a part of it.
Absolutely.
What's the most surprising thing that you found either in the garden or from the garden? You know, something where you've just gone out there and be like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen.
Yesterday, when Hannah is another intern, Hannah and I were planting the squash, and we picked up a thing of the seed block squash, and we found a cockroach family in it. And it was terrifying. And then we also found a little beetle family in the sand. That was pretty surprising. It's not very exciting, but it was surprising for sure.
For me, I think it's more of like an experience I've had being in the farm. Before, I really was not very much of an outside person, unfortunately. I try to spend time outside, but I didn't a lot. But now that we've been like in the fields and in the garden, I've really found it like comforting and a time to like think and just be with nature. And I really appreciate that. And it's something new for me. And yeah, I also appreciate that I can volunteer at all. You know, I don't go to Monmouth, so this is a really cool experience for me. Also the chicks. That's one thing. I'm vegetarian now. I've been wanting to be vegetarian for a really long time, but actually like taking care of baby chicks and seeing our big hens is like, I need to stop eating chicken nuggets. So that's one thing that's kind of surprising for me.
I agree with Tala a lot. I think that this is such a great opportunity for students and volunteers. I don't think I would rather be doing anything else with my summer. It's a really great opportunity. It's really fun too.
Nice.
Yeah, I agree with everything they said.
I'm an environmental studies major, so this is really interesting for me too, to get to apply my knowledge of everything that I've learned so far in college. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's always full of surprises. Farming is one of those things where you have to keep your eyes open. Sometimes we make mistakes. I remember once there was a miscommunication and someone sowed clover in the garlic patch. Sounds like a disaster, but it kind of worked, and wouldn't have thought to do that. And so you just keep your eyes open and say, oh, well, we may actually do that deliberately sometime and have that mix going. Always little things like that happening. So every time you make a goof up, stop and pause and think, well, let's see what happens. Yeah,
That's great.
So this is Bob Riley. I'm
Hi,
a
Bob.
big fan of soil health. And I wondered what you're doing to improve the habitat for all the critters in the first foot of soil, the 10 billion nematodes and protozoa, et cetera, et cetera. Are you feeding them right? And can you feed them better? And can you feed them worse?
well, we can certainly feed them worse. But we're hoping, first off, by keeping the grass tall, hopefully that's doing quite a lot for the soil ecology out here. A lot of these grasses and other plants, they're actually putting quite a lot of their photosynthetic output into root exudates, feeding those nematodes and whatnot. In the copse here, we've been removing invasive species quite a lot. There's a lot more work to be done in the hedgerow, but we've been taking out Lonicera macchii, we've been taking out Rosa multiflora, and we've been putting in native plants and trying to get a diversity of native plants. For instance, right now in here, we have a lot of maple and cottonwood and cherry. Well, we don't need any more of those. We have quite a bit of mulberry too. So we planted some witch hazel. We've planted some redbud. We're gonna get Tim Tibbetts out here to make some other suggestions. And we let the leaf litter sit. We sort of want that for our compost, but we don't grab it in there because that's bee habitat, that's mulching the soil. You know, hopefully that's doing work for us all through the year.
Great question.
Very great question.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I was never interested in this kind of thing before coming here. I just wanted a job, but now that I am here, I want to keep doing gardening as long as I can wherever I go. You know, just kind of do whatever little or how much I can. Just
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great to hear.
Do we have any other questions for our crew here before we sign off for the evening?
Yeah, Jordan, I was, and crew on the farm, I was just wondering, as I was touring the farm and thinking about sustainable farming, and I'm not a farmer, I'm an urban person living in Indianapolis. We do a little bit of raised bed gardening, but that's it. Wondered if you could engage the English and maybe some of the other humanities areas of the college through the work of Wendell Berry, who's a sustainable farmer par excellent.
Wendell Berry actually has been featured in our first year course that all our first year students take. Introduction to Liberal Arts. Not as something everyone reads, but he's been in the reader for many years. I've been teaching ILA, and I've always taken my first year students to one of his essays about that begins with a bucket. I don't know if you know that particular one. His ruminations on a bucket that's been filling with soil for some time. So we definitely want to bury into the curriculum.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a philosophy major, and one of my biggest focuses this year with Anne Mary was focusing on nature and how humans and nature can coexist, and how we can fix what we have damaged. So I do think that we can incorporate it a lot more, but it is definitely being incorporated through the school, especially in philosophy and English as well. So
I guess I don't really count because I'm an environmental studies major, but I do have a focus in sustainable design, and which is mostly art focused, but the sustainable part is also really important to me. So I guess that I kind of count, but not really. I'm still kind of the science a little bit.
And we do a lot of collaboration. We're planning on building right about there a wood-fired kiln that the art department can make use of. That's been on the table for some time. Art projects can be and have been occasionally mounted in the garden for some period of time. We had a collaboration with Seju Jones, an artist from Minneapolis, St. Paul region, who came down here once, and the pillars that you saw were constructed kind of inspired by that. And our current logo came out of his visit. So yeah, we try and bring in the artists, the poets, the philosophers, the whole 9 yards. It's a liberal arts farm.
We do have one art project underway, kind of. We have an arch made by alums, I believe, that we're trying to work with facilities to get placed over there. We're trying to make like a nice little installation, but it's underway. So updates will be on the Instagram.
Tal has been spearheading that. And Hannah, I think, was the one who had the inspiration for how we're gonna set it up. So.
Great.
Well, I was the recipient of a jar of your blueberry jam. I was gifted it last year by Alice Dunlap Craft, and it was absolutely wonderful. And I didn't even realize that Monmouth had all of this. So this has been wonderful. Thank you very much. I hope I get another jar.
We're gonna make sure of that now.
Okay.
Walk around and check for the chickens once before we go.
Okay. Okay. Feel free to keep asking questions. We heard the rooster, I think. So we're gonna go check out the chickens one more time.
Been the neighbor's peacock.
Or it may have been a neighbor's
Back and
peacock.
forth sometimes.
So we'll see if they're out, if we can get a better look at them. But feel free to keep asking questions.
I don't know if any folks could hear, but the wind came up there for just a little bit. And when it comes through the cottonwoods and the maples and through the grasses, it's just a lovely sound. And the crickets were chirping out here. So one of the things farms like this are as I think some of the interns were mentioning, they're places for rejuvenation. You feel good being out here. You relax. You feel your blood pressure dropping a little bit. And you know, it's not quite like that out in a soybean field, but here this is a place, yeah, where you feel a little connection to nature, and that's actually part of its function, and we try very hard to maintain that here. There's a little hammock we've strung up there between a couple maple trees for people to hang out.
They're checking out the chickens.
Yeah, students love chickens. We have, I wouldn't say we have plans. We are actively exploring bringing rabbits in as well, who can do some of the mowing for us, much nicer than the gas-powered tractor. And they also provide excellent manure, so more to enrich our soil, which is what we're always thinking of first and foremost. We got eggs? Hey, whose turn is it? Oh, you got them. There's a few more in the fridge, I think.
Yeah.
You may have your, somewhere in here is a rabbit's nest. I'm gonna be careful not to step on that.
Jordan, get those eggs. You can do it, girl.
Yeah.
She's our favorite. We named her Megan.
Oh, did we?
Kind of.
Right. All right. Are there any final remarks before we log off for this evening?
Good work.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cal, it's never too late to transfer.
Mac said it's never too late to transfer.
Oh.
Perfect. Well, Mac, then I will let you take it away.
Okay, so tomorrow we'll meet again at 4 p.m. Central Time, obviously, for a tour of the college's archives with archivist Lynn Daw. That should be really fun because we're going to see stuff that the public has never seen before and go into places that the public is not allowed. So make sure not to miss that. College historian Jeff Rankin will be joining us. And after that, there'll be alumni presentation by Dan Cotter from the class of '88 on the 17 men at the center seat, their courts and their times. That's about the Supreme Court, beginning at 6 p.m. Central Time. For a full list of the Golden Scots events, they are all on the Monmouth College website. I made it myself. I think I did a pretty good job. Check it out. And once again, thanks for hanging out with us, and go Scots. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.